Let's begin by reading the question. You decide to begin selling lightsabers at the local fair. Your cost for each lightsaber is $1.47, plus you have to pay a fixed weekly fee of $150 for the booth. Your plan is to sell each lightsaber for $3.49. So this is the given information. And now we're asked 3 different questions, and we're going to need to use this given information to answer them. So, first we're asked to write an algebraic expression to represent our total cost for the week if we sell n lightsabers. So, these are our 2 variables of interest. So, n is the number of lightsabers sold, and our total costs depend on the number of lightsabers. And I'm just going to put depend on n, where n is the number of lightsabers sold. Okay. So let's see what our costs are. Well, it's $1.47 for each lightsaber, $1.47 each lightsaber, and a fixed weekly fee for $150. So notice these 2 amounts. This one depends on the number of lightsabers. So it's $1.47 per lightsaber, but this total amount is variable or varies depending on the number of lightsabers. The $150 weekly fee, it doesn't matter how many lightsabers we sell, 0 or 1,000,000, no matter what, we have to pay $150. So our total costs are the cost for the lightsabers, and I'm just going to put plus the booth cost. Okay. So this equals, well, the cost for the lightsabers is $1.47 per lightsaber. So if we had 1 lightsaber, it would be 1 times 147. If we sold 2 lightsabers, it'd be 2 times 147. 3 lightsabers would be 3 times 147. Or in general, if we sold n lightsabers, it'd be n times 147. And we like to write that as 147n. So this is still 1.47 times n. So we have 1.47n plus the 150 for the booth. Okay. So this is our algebraic expression, 147n plus 150. And that's for our costs. Now the next question asks, write an algebraic expression to represent the revenue from the sale of n lightsabers during the week. Well, revenue means how much money you take in. So you could think if you worked at a grocery store, the revenue would be all the money in your cash register minus how much you started with at the end of the day. But that doesn't include how much it costs to purchase all the food to sell to people. So the revenue is all money in. Well, here it says that you plan to sell each lightsaber for $3.49. Well, that means you will earn $3.49 per lightsaber. And remember, the number of lightsabers, we don't know that. That could vary, and we're representing that with n. So our revenue will be $3.49 times n. Okay, so that's how much money we'd have at the end of the day. So if you sold 100 lightsabers, that would be $349. But you'd still have to give the $150 for the booth, and it would still cost you $1.47. So that's where the idea of profit comes in, because profit is, well, you don't get to really keep all of the revenue because you do have costs involved that you have to pay. So the profit would be how much you make, which is your revenue, and then you'd have to subtract off any costs. Okay, so let me do this in a different one. The revenue is 349N. So we found that here. That's how much money we take in. Now we have to subtract off this entire expression, minus 1.47N plus 150. Now notice I put the entire cost expression into parentheses because we need to subtract it all off. So if we didn't put parentheses, that would look like we were adding 150, but we don't get $150 for using the booth. We have to pay that fee. So now we're going to distribute. Let's make a little room. So we'll distribute so we can simplify our expression. So it would be 3.49N minus 1.47N. Distributing the minus here, minus 150. And that makes sense because we have to subtract off from our revenue the cost of the booth. Now combining these are like terms, so we can just subtract the coefficients. So let's get a calculator out. 3.49 minus 1.47 equals 202. So we'd have 2.02N minus 150. And let's just stop for a second to think about what this means. So you make about you make exactly $3.49 per lightsaber, but it costs $1.47 per lightsaber. Well, that means that you're going to make a profit of $2.02. So the money you take in minus the money it costs. So that's what this piece is representing. And then from our profit, we also have to subtract off the $150 weekly fee for renting the booth. So that's what this expression means. So let's write this here. So our profit is $2.02 per lightsaber minus the $150 it costs for the booth.